Welcome to part 1 of Resume Skills. My name is Janet Schlesinger, and I've been leading resume workshops for Dress for Success for going on 4 years. This video is part of a new resource called Keys to Success, which offers ongoing tools for professional development. Keys to Success supports the Dress for Success of Palm Beach's mission to empower women to achieve economic independence. The objective of today's session is to help you create a resume that will get you noticed. And I hope to make the process of writing your resume not so intimidating or overwhelming. So let's get started. So what do you need a resume for? A resume simply shows a prospective employer that you're qualified for the job for which they're hiring. You'll likely be submitting your resume online. So let's talk about what happens to your resume when you hit that submit button. When you submit your resume, it likely goes into an application tracking system, or ATS, which are widely used by companies to automate some of the hiring process. The ATS will read your resume and compare it to the job description. It filters out the resumes that don't match, so that the hiring manager doesn't have to read through piles of resumes. If your resume makes it past the ATS filter, it gets passed on to a real human being. Most hiring managers just skim over resumes. If they don't quickly see what they're looking for, then they're on to the next resume. They will spend time reading more details if you do capture their attention. To get the interview, your resume needs to not only make a strong impression on the hiring manager, but it also needs to get past the ATS filter. If you've sent out resumes and don't get positive responses, it could be that your resume was filtered out by the ATS. So how do you build a resume that will pass the ATS filter? We know how they work, so let's use that information to your advantage. The ATS strips your resume of all formatting. The ATS can get confused by headers and footers and tables, so keep it simple and leave those things out. Next, the ATS scans the text and tries to identify the different types of information, such as contact info, skills, work experience, education. To make sure that the ATS gets it right, you're going to organize that information to make it easier for the ATS and use basic categories. Finally, the ATS compares the words and phrases in your resume against the keywords from the job description and calculates a score that indicates if your resume is a match. To ensure that your resume is a match, mirror the words and phrases in the job description. That doesn't mean copying word for word, but use the same basic keywords. This will ensure that your resume isn't filtered out by the ATS, and hiring managers will quickly see what they were looking for on your resume. So here's the big secret. Use the job description as your cheat sheet. Let's give it a try. Find and print a job description for which you think you're qualified and one that you can get excited about. Highlight or underline all the keywords and phrases. These are the words and phrases that you'll mirror in your resume while also making sure your resume accurately reflects the experience and qualifications. Let's talk a little bit about resume formats. If you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 opinions about what format is the best, and that can be confusing. The format I recommend is simple and works well for people with lots or little experience, people with career gaps, and people changing careers. This is Tanya's resume, and she's applying for the office assistant position that we just looked at. Her resume is clean and to the point, and only one page. The goal is to make it very quick and easy for the person reading, or should I say skimming, her resume, to see that she's a great candidate. As you get started, focus on the contents and worry about the formatting later. Let's take a look at each part of the resume. The first section is your contact information. Use a professional sounding email address, not sexymama@xmail.com, and be sure to check your mail at least once a day. List the phone number that you're most likely to answer, and have a professional sounding voice greeting such as, "Hi, you've reached Tanya. I'm unable to take your call, so please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can." Don't forget to check your voicemail messages at least once a day. The last part of your contact information is the town where you live, and this is simply a little piece of information that makes the ATS happy. Next, name the job you want. And you can even use the job title from the job description. This is the easiest way to improve your ATS match score. The skills and qualifications section of your resume should be very concise and scream, "I am qualified." It needs to mirror the list of requirements from the job description so that the ATS and hiring manager can easily see that you have what they're looking for. We'll talk more about skills and qualifications in part 2 of this video series. You have shown you have the qualifications for the job. The accomplishments section of your resume is where you provide the proof. To provide the proof that you have the required skills, make sure you include one or more accomplishment statements for each of the items listed under skills and qualifications. This section can be the most challenging part of a resume, and it's often what separates an okay resume from a great resume. A resume that stands out focuses on the results, impact, and benefits that you achieved, not just what you did. I'll get into a lot more detail on writing strong accomplishment statements in part 2 of this video series. This section is where you list your work experience. It's recommended that you include only the last 10 years. If you're just beginning your career, be sure to include volunteer work. Just because you didn't get a paycheck doesn't mean you didn't gain really valuable experience. ATS systems will likely flag work experience gaps. If your work history hasn't been continuous, don't fret because there are many legitimate reasons for gaps. I was laid off from a job and it took me almost 6 months to find a new job. While I was job hunting, I also took some online classes and learned some new skills. On my resume, I could list this as professional development to fill the gap. Raising a family, elder care provider, or volunteer work can also be used to fill gaps. Lastly, list your education, training, certifications in this section, with the most recent first. If you're concerned about age discrimination, you can leave off the dates. Thank you for joining me today. I hope creating a resume doesn't feel as intimidating, and you've learned some tips for creating a resume that will pass the ATS filter. Concisely highlight your skills and accomplishment, catch the eye of the hiring manager, and get you the interview. I know you can do it, and in the process, I hope you gain some confidence as you're able to articulate your skills and the value you have to offer. Please access the Virtual Career Center on the Dress for Success website for additional resources and information, including part 2 of the resume series, which focuses on taking your resume to the next level of great. On the website, you can also schedule a session with a career coach for one-on-one support. Thank you.